Natasha Paris here, Excellent Families. I have some amazing content for you today. So if you just now see me for the first time, introduce myself real briefly, and I'm going to introduce our guest today. My name is Natasha Paris. I'm your servant CEO, and I'm so happy to bring this guest to you today. Her name is Tia Steagmann, all the way from the UK, and she has an amazing topic to talk to you guys about. Okay, so I'm going to just share with you briefly what I know about Tia. Tia and I met in St. Martin. We were on a elite retreat together with our mentor, Danelle Delgado, and I remember the first time I saw her in the room, I was like, this lady right here, I want to be connected to, because she's just filled with wisdom. I'm a wealth of knowledge, and I am so happy that I get to interview her today to bring you some of this amazing information about parenting, about how to be intentional in your parenting. So I want you, Tia, to just share with our community about who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your family as well.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much. Lovely introduction. Thank you. And thank you everybody for having me and for jumping on with us today. So like Natasha said, I'm Tia, and I'm a mom of three, the mom of three beautiful little girls. And yeah, so I'm originally from South Africa. I was born and bred, I'm a born and bred South African. From a bush. I grew up barefoot in the bush on a farm in the middle of nowhere, a real African child. And I now find myself living in the very cold UK. So, but you know, that in itself is a story of transition and making change and adapting and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, so I met Natasha, like she said, at a retreat for entrepreneurs, for female entrepreneurs. And, you know, we hit it off because I think we both have a passion and a heart for our parenting. We're both intentional with how we bring up our children. I, for sure, you know, have learned through my journey of personal development, having been in business for the last 4 years, as I've learned and personally developed, I've realized more and more so that, you know, bringing up a child, there needs to be certain aspects of intention. It's not just something that you can, you know, let your children just be. I think back of my own childhood and how intentional my parents were with a lot of stuff that happened to us. Phrases that my dad said to us, you know, you'll never do this, or over my dead body will one of my children ever do this, and grooming us in terms of affirmations and speaking things over us as children. And that shaped us to be the people that we are today. So, you know, for me, that is one of my passions is being, you know, a mother that raises a generation. And, you know, even if as a mom, that's the only thing I can do well in this world, if I die one day and the only legacy that I leave is that I've raised these three incredible daughters, then I'll be more than happy with that. Because, you know, sometimes we think as parents that it's all about us, but actually we could be raising the next generation of presidents or, you know, speakers. You know, one of my daughters could be the next Christine Kane or Joyce Meyer or, you know, or something like that. So that could be my legacy. So I've got to make sure that I'm, you know, I'm connected and I'm here as a mom, and that's what's important to me. And sometimes when you are a mom, it's important to put aside your own desires and your own goals and everything and just focus on your kids when they really need you. Right. So that's my passion right now. That's what I'm really passionate about. And I think that's why, Natasha, that's why you and I connected so much, because our kids are such an important part of who we are.
Absolutely. I love how you said how, you know, the children should, you know, we should raise our kids to groom them to leave that legacy. I spoke about that yesterday, how important that is. You know, how, you know, we're only going to be here for a short time, but our kids, that's why we need to be intentional. So let's get right into that. Talk to me about this word intentional, because I use this word a lot in here in Excellent Families. I love this word. And once I got the revelation of what that meant, I really, really wanted to make sure I mastered this word. Okay, so give us your definition of what being intentional or intentional parenting is.
So for me, being intentional is having a plan. It's having an outcome. It's knowing what you're working towards. So it's not just winging it on a daily basis. Right. And it's not about, I was saying to you earlier, it's not about bringing up your children military style. It's not about being militant. It's not about having all these structures in place. It's about thinking about, you have an opportunity to create this, to shape this person's life, to whatever you say, your marriage, they watch everything that you do, how you act. They become little beings that are, images of you, how you talk, how you walk, what you say, all that kind of stuff. So not only do you need to now be intentional about how you act as a parent, but you need to have a kind of plan on how you would like to shape them as children, in the adults you want them to become. So, for me, it's important that I have, God-centered daughters that has God at the center of their lives. So I want to bring up children, that has that ethos. So everything that we do, we look at. I also want to be intentional about how I'm equipping them to live their life, so that when they leave my house one day, they don't go rogue and do something totally different. But I just want to leave things in their minds. And, I don't want to, being intentional is not about indoctrinating them. It's not about brainwashing them. It's about guiding them with an intention. Right. Like having an intention. I want to bring up sporty children. You don't bring up sporty children and then sit in your butt all day in front of the television. You take them out, you play sports with them, you sign them up, you play outside, you buy a table tennis table like my husband bought for Christmas. Right. You do all these things because that's your intention. So it's kind of like having a plan or having an outline on how you would like to influence and shape their lives.
That is so good. You said something right there. You said a plan, Tia. So tell me, do you think that parents, as they're raising their children, do you think they're raising their children with a plan, or do you think some people are just winging it? Do you think some people are just raising their children by default?
I think so, yes. I do believe that, unfortunately, it's an atrocity. And I think it's also because people just don't know. Because until I became, I'll tell you what happened, until I became a service leader in my church and I started to run a children's ministry, and until I started to teach the 9-10-year-olds, so that happened about a year ago, I took over this ministry of this age group. And it was such a challenge. Everybody was so challenged by it. And I was like, okay, let me go, let me do it. I've got a daughter that's this age. Let me jump in. And I took on this ministry, and I realized these kids and that you had to be so intentional about I was teaching them at Sunday school on Sundays, and I just got so involved in their world, and I just realized, that a lot of their parents didn't have a plan. They weren't intentional with their upbringing, and the parents would then come to me and talk to me about their struggles and this and that, and I thought, wow, open up so many cans of worms. Yeah. And I think the problem is that I became so aware of it that the devil has a plan. The enemy has a plan. He is very, very cunning. And he has a plan with our children. Yes. He indoctrinates them with music, with television, with social media all the time. He has a plan for their destruction. Right. And if we as parents don't have a plan to take our children and shape them in a specific way, then we're going to be second best. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a plan because they think that a plan is militant, or they think that, why should I have a plan? I don't need a plan. I can just be a good parent. And it's like, no, actually, we need to have a plan because the devil has a plan. And our plan needs to outplay his plan, isn't it? So
Absolutely. So what do you think? I mean, you're in the UK, we're in the United States. And I know we have other people in this group, Sweden, Nigeria. It's a global group. So what do you think is the biggest mistakes that parents make when raising their children?
Right. I think some of the biggest mistakes I've made, and I can't really point a finger at what everybody else has done. I think everybody knows their mistakes if you have to be truthful and honest. Right. But I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made is that we lose presence. We're not present with our children. I have 3 girls, and my eldest, oh my word, she talks the hind leg of a donkey. And at one point you switch off, and at one point you're thinking, oh my God, if you say another word, my head's going to explode. You talk like she talks and talks and talks and talks. And I'm just like, okay, whoa, And then, but you've got to be present. You want to be more present in their lives. And that means, listening more to what they're saying. Right. And I think what happens is that we're so on our phones and we're so distracted these days that some of the biggest mistakes we can make as parents is being distracted. Okay, and I think some of the biggest mistake I've made as a parent is that I wasn't intentional and I wasn't switched on to the fact that I had these 3 little pairs of eyes watching everything that I did, how I worked my business, how long I spent in front of my computer, how I speak to my husband, how little I sleep. All these kind of things have an impact on my children. And only when I became aware of those things that I realized, wow, because I'm having huge problems with my 10-year-old sleeping. She doesn't want to sleep. She's like, Mom, but you're up all night. But Mom, you don't sleep much. And then I'm realizing that the example that I've set for her over the last 4 years while I was running a global business and working all hours of the day, that is now playing havoc. And I know that when I was growing up, my dad never slept. My dad was a night owl. So I had this example from my father about this. And I know how bad it was for me when I struggled with my depression. It's because I didn't sleep. You know, when I had depressive bouts, it was because I was tired. My brain wasn't getting enough sleep. And I find that actually when I get more sleep, I'm in a better mood. I can handle things better. I'm less emotional. So my depression is better. So the moment I started putting boundaries on her sleep, her mood started lifting. She started being in better moods. And I said to her, can you see the difference sleep makes? But I was leading with the example.
Right.
See? So the biggest mistake we make, I think, is that we don't realize that children do what we do. They don't do what we say they should do. Right. And they watch everything we do. You know, and if we're constantly on our phones, we can't now expect them to have less TV time if we're always on the phone. Right. You know, if we're not eating well, they're watching everything we do. So I think some of to me, the 2 biggest mistakes we can make is not being aware of the example and how that impacts your children. And then the other thing is being present. Like, because I asked my husband had a chat with my 10-year-old the other day, and he asked her, what are the things you feel like hints and tips for us as parents and stuff? And she said, I would like mommy to pay more attention to us. I would like mom to be more present. She's not present. She's always, doing something else. And I thought, wow, I need to be more present with my children, listen to their conversations. She's like, even when she drops us off, when I drop them off in the morning, we might be 10 minutes early for school. Then I'll check my Facebook and whatever. And she's like, no, be with us that 10 minutes.
Right.
I was like, oh gosh, yeah, you're right. Oh, okay, bad mommy. And they want to play games in the car. You see, they want to do stuff like they want to do riddles and all this kind of stuff. And I just switched off and check my phone. And they're like, no, Mom, no, we want you with us. And I was like, wow, you don't realize that, you know?
Absolutely. And the time that we have them is so short. It goes so fast. It goes so
absolutely fast. And they learn so fast. Let me tell you something. So fast.
It's rather amazing. Okay, so tell me, since we're talking about being intentional, and I'm the type of parent here, like, I don't try to master every area of parenting. You know what I mean? And what I've done with my 6 children is I've just chosen a few areas and I've not mastered them.
Right.
That's what I teach, when I'm coaching parents, that's what I tell them to do. Listen, don't try to be this perfect mom, try to be perfect in every area. Like, I'm not a mom that bakes. I mean, I'm just not going to sit there and do arts and crafts with you for 3 hours. That's just not my gift, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah, I've chosen a few areas and I've mastered them. I've been intentional. So I would love to hear, if you're talking to these parents right now, we're talking to these parents, I would like for you to share with us, the areas that we need to be, because some parents probably they've never heard this concept of just choosing a few areas and mastering. So give us some of the areas that you have mastered, that you have been intentional in mastering and how you raise your kids.
Right. Okay. So for me, one of my biggest downfalls was that I was never taught about money. Money just wasn't taught to girls when I grew up. Okay. My brother is exceptionally, he's exceptionally talented when it comes to making money and doing stuff around money. And he can turn, £5 into 500 like this. Yeah. But I believe because he was groomed by my grandfather and by my father, he was groomed in business. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. All my family has been entrepreneurs all along. And we were never spoken to about business. Even though my mom had her own business, nobody spoke to me about business acumen. So we've been very intentional about grooming our children around money. So, my daughter came home with, she said there was a school trip and it was going to cost X, and down in the dumps, so I'm never going to be able to go. It's so expensive. And then my husband looked at it and he said, no, it's not that expensive, but why don't you pay half and we pay half? And she was like, really? He was like, yeah, let's look at what your current allowance is, which is, we'd give it £10 a month or whatever. And, this is what you currently get. And this is what you would need to do, because it's in September. So they worked it out from last year. I think it was December or something. It was like, you've got 9 months. So, this is the amount. You only need like £4 or £5 a month extra on top of your allowance. And she's like, well, it was like, you can wash the car once a month. You can take out the bins. So they made a sheet. So they're doing a spreadsheet and they're updating the spreadsheet. And she's so eager, to make extra bits of money. So we've been very intentional around money. I think, and some parents might not be good at money at all, but they could then educate themselves a bit more about money. Why don't you as a parent then go and educate yourself and then educate your child at the same time, on just how to manage money better, better money management skills. Teach them about credit cards and about interest payments and about, things that we were never taught, about bank charges. Like if you go into overdraft, why you don't want to go into overdraft, and compound interest and what it looks like and all this kind of stuff. Gradually over time, talk to them about it so that they understand, how to manage their money better.
Thea, this is gold. This is really gold. I want to just talk about this a little bit, because that was not, as a parent, I can honestly say, this was not an area that I really talked about.
No.
Even growing up, my dad was like, don't get a credit card. That's all we knew about money. So never had a healthy relationship with money, because my parents were never intentional about teaching me. So I think that's a very good area that we could be intentional about raising our children, because a lot of us, even as adults, we don't even have a healthy relationship with money.
No, exactly.
We don't want to know the numbers. We don't want to even look at the numbers. But if we can already start grooming our kids now, and be intentional in this area, will be fantastic. So that's awesome. All right, I'm ready.
There's so many simple things you can do, just to lay a foundation for your children. And what we're doing now with our kids is that we've decided that this month we're eating everything in the pantry. We're just going to go and we're going to go into the freezer and we're going to go into the pantry, and we made a use of this. And we got my 10-year-old take the paper and write a massive list of everything that is there. And then we came up, okay, so we can eat this and we can use this for this and we can make this from this, and so that we eat our pantry's worth. And she got really involved in this, and we got the other two involved, and we just, which night are we going to eat what. And then we started a food schedule, okay? Because that you can get your kids involved in, like, when are we going to cook what? Because that is part of money management. It's about not overspending on your groceries and just shopping willy-nilly. It's about learning to plan your food weekly. This week we're going to eat Monday night this, Tuesday night this, Wednesday night this, and you put it up in the kitchen and the kids know it, because my middle one, she loves food, and she'll literally just come, what are we eating tonight? And then if it's there, she can have a look, this is what we're eating tonight,
So good.
But you get them involved in the process, because that is good stewardship of money, is knowing that you don't just go out and buy loads of stuff when you have a pantry full of stuff that you could be using, and then taking all those tins of tomato sauce that we have in the fridge and making a soup from it, or doing something, or taking all the offcuts in the fridge, or what can you do with the chicken? And because that is not only basic life skills, but it teaches them about stewarding. It teaches them about being wise, and that ties in with money, So don't just think that you need to know a lot about money to be able to teach your children about money. You don't. It goes down to simples as basic as starting with food, and stuff like that.
That's major. That is major.
Right. So money for me is something that we've been more intentional about, because I realized that my husband was groomed by his dad and I wasn't. So I wanted to have a better working relationship with money. So, and then, I also wanted to be a bit more frugal, because I just thought, I don't want to just throw my money around. I want to be a good steward. The Bible tells us to be a good steward of our money, and that was important to me, because I want to make it go further. I would much rather sow into my church's building fund, or tithe more, pledge more, than spending it on arbitrary stuff that I'm just filling my house with, So I wanted to teach that principle to my children too. The other thing that I've been more, obviously for me it's spirituality. It's being more intentional with spirituality with my children. having morning devotions. So everyone's sitting around the table having a morning devotion, praying for them and over them every night. So like I said to you, I've been doing this for a few years where and they love it now. They lap it up. Like daddy comes and puts them in bed and he prays for them and they're like, no, mommy needs to go and pray. So, and they will not go to bed if I haven't prayed for them. And they giggle and they laugh when I do it. And then often they'll ask me, what does that mean you just said? Because I'll literally just be like, I'll be like, thank you, Lord, that I'll be like, India is a world shaker and a history maker, and I'll speak all these big things over you, thank you that she's going to be an Olympic athlete one day and, all this kind of stuff. She's going to do great things for you. You've got plans for her. And they laugh and they at first they found it very embarrassing. They were always embarrassed by it. Like, you saying these things about me? Like, this is so weird. Like, they were so weirded out by it. They were totally weirded out by it. Right. And now they love it. Now they can't go to bed at night if I haven't blessed them. And I will say, Lord, bless every bone in her body. Bless every muscle in her body. Bless every cell in her body. Bless this head. Bless this foot. And they will be like, and if I do it to the one and not the other, she'll be like, you blessed her tonight. You didn't bless me, But yeah, so just be intentional with their spirituality, and I'm not saying Bible bashing but just little things like devotions and little things like praying for them before they go to bed and blessing them, and stuff like that. So you can be more intentional with the spirituality. And then my big thing lately is I've been very intentional with sexuality. Because I've been listening to a lot of really great podcasts. Yes. Because I said to you before, I have a problem with the music that our children are being exposed to. And the enemy is a very big plan. And he's exposing our 4, 5, 6-year-olds. They'll be listening in the car. Songs are all of a very sexual nature at the moment. I don't know. I know when we were growing up, a lot of it was more to do with drugs and stuff like that. It was very much about drugs and being anti-establishment and stuff like that. But at the moment, I don't know if I'm just more aware of it. I'm probably a lot more aware of it, but the songs are very sexual in nature. Right. And I have come into my daughter's room where she's listening to a radio station called Fun Kids, which is a Disney station. Wow. And she is singing songs live on her bed, reading a book and singing a song that's of sexual nature. Put your body against my body. And I'm like, hang on, you're 6. You shouldn't be talking about putting your body against my body and your sexy body and my sexy body. Right. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. Right. In the right context, yes. Right. But what is that subliminally putting in their back heads? Right. So when she's 15, 16 and a boy comes to her and says, put your sexy body against my body, she's going to think that's absolutely okay. That's right. Right. Instead of the red signals going off thinking, whoa, right, this is not right, there's a problem for me in this. Yeah. So I just want to be more intentional about making my children aware of that. So I've been equipping myself as a parent. I'm listening to podcasts and things on parenting and sexuality and how to relay that message to our children. And I'll tell you a shocking statistic is that the conversations that were happening 5, 10 years ago with children that were in America in high school are now not only in middle school, but they're now actually going to elementary school. You need to start having the birds and bees conversations with your children roughly at the age of 4 or 5.
My goodness.
Because by the time that they're 7, 8, 9, they've already been exposed to something sexual related. Right. And they're getting sex education from school. Yeah. So us as parents just need to be a little bit more like on the ball. I think maybe we're just not on the ball. I think we just think, right, oh, I have time. Right. When you don't have time. When I spoke to my 9-year-old about it, when she was 9, we spoke to her about it, and she was like, oh, I've already heard that. I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. And we were like, where did you hear it from? Like, I was like, where did your friends tell you about it? Like, how did you know these things? And she's like, I just know these things. And, there's videos and stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, we need to start with my 7-year-old now. I need to, because, YouTube stuff comes up and everything. Right. So I think we need to be more intentional. And I don't want to make it wrong. That's the thing. I don't want to tell my children it's wrong. Just put it off. Right. I want to be at the point where I want to tell them why it's wrong. Right. I want to educate them. I want to, give them a holistic view over it as a parent And that to me is being intentional about their sexuality. That sexuality for me, and that's my belief, is that it's something that you say for your husband. I don't want my children to, be sexually active before marriage and stuff like that, because I want to avoid situations for my daughters, that I found myself in, because
Right.
I wasn't taught these principles as a young girl, and I was in potentially loads of sticky situations when I was at university and stuff like that, because I didn't have those safeguards put in place by my parents. I weren't taught about the principles and the sexuality and all those kind of things. So for me, those are just 3 areas where you can be more intentional with your children.
So good, Tia. Okay, so as we wrap this up, because I love to give people practical tips, because I would like for you guys to hear this interview as you listen to this, that your mind is already like moving, like, okay, what can I do right now? Like, how can I walk away from this interview, and what can I implement? So Tia, give us some things that we can implement right away, like right now. What can we do to be more intentional about raising our children?
Right. So I think, for me, some of the things that we've done is obviously, we started getting our children involved in the money process. We started getting our children involved in drawing up the food schedules and explaining the principle behind it. So that's a practical step you can do, is start planning your meals, start getting a meal planner and plan your meals and explain to your children, a chore chart. Or giving them small amounts of money, $2 or $5 or something, and then explain to them what they're earning that money for. So, doing chores and stuff like that. What we've done is that we've ensured that at our house we have equipment to keep our children busy, so that when we say, get off that phone or get off that iPad or whatever, we're enough now with technology, that there are other things that they can do. So we've gone out and we've thought about it, and we've done things like introducing game nights, like having more games, like having one night of the week where we have a game night, and we have one night of the week that's family movie night, So we've become more intentional of being present with our children. We've become more intentional around, like I said, praying for them, praying over them, getting them used to prayer if you want them to be more spiritually impacted, the praying over them and stuff like that, doing family devotional time in the morning. It's about looking at your life and looking at the things that you're already doing. How can you involve your children in that? For me, that is very important. But I just started, in terms of the money thing, we started with just involving them little bit with, and budgeting. Like, listen, this is our food budget, and this is what we're going to buy. Let's plan. And we can't just go haywire and do this. Or what I would also do is, if dad says, okay, you guys can go to the shop and you've got $100, to buy XYZ, or clothes for them or whatever, then we would say, so that means, if you've got $100 each, or you've got $30 each, then, this is what you can afford. And then I will take them shopping and they'll go, oh, this is pretty. And I say, you can have this, but then